Hey Josh. First one in tonight. Oh, cheers Chad. How you doing? A little bit earlier tonight, a little bit organised. Slight change of perspective. Good evening, Jeff. Evening, Tim. How you doing? Two reasons for this slight change of viewing angle. My desk is a little bit overoccupied now. I've got a second screen, a bigger second screen on my desk now, so I haven't got the room for that little backdrop. So this is now a side view, and there's kind of a side advantage is the fact that I'm now face onto the microphone of the phone, so hopefully coming through a bit clearer. Ciao Sandro. How you doing, Sandro? How you doing, Joe? Good evening all. I can still say evening because it's not quite midnight. Well, yes, this is a display of all my currently available pipes. I thought I might as well, why not? I do have to come up with either a website or an Etsy page, or spend some time listing them on eBay. But there are a nice selection of pipes currently available. They're really good pipes, actually. And the longer I look at them, the more I get tempted to smoke them myself. And the one which is mostly calling out to me at the moment is this one here. It's an eminently smokable pipe. A lot of these are sort of more exceptional pipes, really nice grain, and this one also has good, very nice grain. But it's size-wise, it's a very, very smokable pipe. It's a it's a kind of a traditional size, and it's got some lovely grain on it. And it's lightweight. Hi Tree, how you doing? So I'm quite tempted to actually keep this one. We'll see. If it gets a buyer, I'll sell it, obviously, but otherwise I'd be quite happy to smoke that one. This one is still around, this cracked egg type thing. This is a pipe which I've actually been trying to partner up with, to find somebody who would give it a sandblast. Although it's got some really great straight grain, it's also got the rings. You can actually see them. I don't know if you can see them on the screen now, but it's got some really well-defined, very proportionate rings, very tidy rings, and it would make a lovely sandblast, ring grain sandblast. Haven't actually decided what I'm going to smoke tonight. I did smoke some Erenmore Flake earlier on, which I've really been getting back into. It's kind of really hitting the spot in terms of being a Virginia, but with a little bit of extra zing, a little bit of extra sweetness coming from that flavouring. So I've really been enjoying that. actually managed to watch Match's midweek Halloween special, his live. I don't usually get to see him live because it's Friday night, my Sabbath, so I don't get to see it. North Country Fisher, how you doing? Whoever's writing in the, I don't know if that's Chinese or what, but I can't read that. I do get one guy who comments on my channel quite often, and I use Google Translate, and we do sort of exchange pleasantries, but it's very difficult to really have a conversation as such, but certainly not here. Sorry if you do want to have a conversation, but it would be rather difficult for me to do that live. But I appreciate you popping on nonetheless. This there's only one non-9mm, and this is this one here, which was my first ever attempt at a regular non-9mm, and this is a canted poker, if you like, and it's a beautiful pipe, and this one is 9mm, yes. Got like an hourglass kind of shape. And it is 9mm. Nice emerald green stem. Let's get some light on it. I don't seem to be able to focus as well with this software that I'm using after Chad's recommendation, but I haven't even tried to use the YouTube Live since starting using this software. It just works so well. Hey Grobnob. Oh, it's Mandarin. Fine. Hi George. As I said on my Instagram post earlier today, any pipes, as I did last week, any pipes that sells during the live will get a serious reduction from the normal price. Cheers everyone. I'm not sure if I have tried Troost. I know I've had it before, but I may have sold it on in one of my vintage tobacco sales in the past. I know I've had it, but I don't think I've smoked it. At least I don't think I have. Is it still a current blend, Sandro? Moderately okay, Chad. I don't like the sound of that. Alright Jeff, I've sent you the email back. Sorry for the gap there guys. Hey Jordan, how you doing? Welcome to another relatively new pipe carver everybody. Jordan, I'm sure you guys have subscribed to his channel. If you haven't, get on over there, click on the button up next to his name and check out his channel. Wife lost her phone drama. Uh-oh. That's not good. Has she found it yet, Chad? Made by STG, yeah, fair enough. Grubnob the Troll hit 1 million views this week, currently awaiting monetization. Good for you. Yeah, I think I'm very close to 1 million views, but I don't usually check out my what do you call it, the studio thing on YouTube, but every so often I do. She hasn't really tried yet, hence the drama. Okay. Very good. Black Swan, okay. It's been a while since I've bought from Black Swan. I think the last thing I bought from them was some of the Gareth Hogarth stuff when it came out. Where is that box? Not available. Oh well. Hey Robert, how you doing? The Quaker is in the house. How you doing, Hector? Long time no see. Good to see you on board. Alright, so if any of you guys caught my video, I think it was on Friday, I was talking about some of the blendings that I'd done in the past. So this is 40th anniversary with some HH Pure Virginia. I thought it was a mix that I'd done with some Perique, but not. But when I opened this just to smell it, it smelled so great. I thought I'd better smoke it. The aroma from this is just, it's like concentrated Christmas cheer, that typical vinegary aroma from McClelland's that you get. But it's kind of concentrated. It's been sitting here since June 2018, so it's almost a year and a half. So I've got to try some of this. It's been a while. Yeah, I saw some of your posts on Facebook, Hector. Looks like you were having a good time. So I'm going to smoke it in the new Radice. I think this is day 5 on the Radice. There's been a couple of gaps in between, but I think this is the 5th day. And some of the days in between I've smoked it more than once, so... I'll just take about 1/3 of a bowl, maybe a half, just to see how it is before I commit to it. You're watching this on the way to church. I hope it puts you in the right frame of mind for a bit of repentance. These Radices, what I would say is that, I mean, Mike, I bought this from Mike at Briar Blues, and he told me that it depends on who makes them in terms of how well they're finished, and I assume they're priced accordingly. This one was really quite reasonable in the grand scheme of things. I mean, not a cheap pipe, but still. But it's really a fantastic smoking pipe. There are a couple of minor issues that I have with it, but not in terms of the smokability. Yeah, I find that no, it was brand new. It was had a naked bowl, but you can see it's had a good innings already. No, it wasn't in a state. It's the interesting thing with a lot of the with a lot of the Italian carving houses nowadays. They all worked for each other at some point. Here, Beowulf. Well, I guess if you think about it, the English ones are quite similar in that respect. A lot of the English carvers at some point worked for Dunhill. Claude, how you doing? Wow, this has got a hell of a retrohale. Unbelievable. That's right. Ascorti and Caminetto. James private stock, is that Boswell? Meeks, how you doing? Hey Cal Delta, I'm on Claude. Jim 8612, Gin, I should say. I've read that one of the warehouses or one of the producers for Butts Shaquan went out. I don't know if Butts Shaquan themselves went out of business. I think one of the businesses that used to work, sort of do pipes for them, but you may be right. Jordan, I don't envy you on that. Hey Daniel, I do not envy you one iota on that Joe Krantz. I think I'd find it too much to handle as well. Plus it's burly. This is 40th anniversary, McClellan's, and McBaron HH Pure Virginia. So this is the Pure Virginia at the time. I think the thought behind it was purely to dilute the 40th and make it go further, so to speak. So still getting that lovely Virginia, sort of vinegary, spicy, clovey Virginia from the McClellans, but at the same time, not to go through the 40th too quickly. So just to dilute it. I think that was the idea at the time. But this stuff is explosive to me at the moment. I'll probably do it again, but it could just be the fact that the 40th has been in the jar for a year and a half, and if I smoked some 40th, the 40th that I've been smoking recently, I think I've finished my tub now. I've got it here, and I've got some knickknacks in it. Did not taste as good as this, it really didn't, and that was the 40th on its own. So I don't know if it's the fact that it's been in the jar or what. There's definitely an element of that, Hector. I just don't know if it's Butts Shaquan itself or just one of the... I think they sort of had a little franchise or a company that they contracted out to. I mean, a lot of companies do that. Dunhill for a long time sent a lot of their Stummels to France, to St. Claude. But I think now it's all back in the UK, but there was a time when the Stummels were all made in France. No new pipes, Daniel. The most recent one is this one, which was the one you've seen already, probably, and that's a non-9mm. My first non-9mm. Here it is. Cheers, Meeks. I'll have to try that one. I'm probably going to do an order from Boswell soon. I haven't done one for a long time, and I probably want to just top up my Northwoods. I still have plenty of it, but it's slowly winding its way down. That's right, Beowulf. That is my first one. Excuse me. Chad, I'm just looking at the pictures. Thank you very much. I can't actually find it on his website. I've been trying to find the same model. I'll have to ask him, maybe get one made. But thanks anyway. So have any of you guys come up with blends that you've made yourself? Yeah, Hector, it kind of is. So I don't know what the 40th, what the HH Pure Virginia is bringing to the table here in this blend. Maybe nothing, and it may be just the development of the 40th, which is really becoming a powerhouse. But it's working, that's all I can say. Originally, I think the plan was just to water it down, to dilute it, to make it last longer. Cheers, Chad. Actually, Beowulf, that's a really good question. It actually was harder for me to make a non-9mm because the main reason for that is that I'm kind of experimenting with the different tenons. So the 9mm is 9mm. So although the tenon is 10 or 10.2mm, but it's a standard size pretty much. Most of the tenons that you buy, or cones as they're known, when you buy them in, I get them in from Europe. They're all pretty much a standard size. So my drill bit that I use for that, which is a 10.2mm drill bit, it works every time, and it's a really snug fit, and it's perfect. But I didn't have that same sort of process with a non-9mm, because I haven't yet quite found the right marriage of tenon with drill bit. So with this one, I've had to just sand down the tenon a little bit. I didn't want to mess with the drill, so I left that alone, and I've just sort of slowly sanded down the tenon to make it a good fit, which it is. It's a really nice fit. That sounds interesting, Hector. Probably not something that I would go for, not being a Burley fan. I had an interesting tasting on Friday. I think I brought it in with me. This is my EDC bag with lots of bits and bobs in it. So John Walker sent me a couple of tobaccos, which you've all heard about. So this is Peretti number 8 flake. Not a bad smoke, a really good aroma. The bag note in this is fantastic. It's got a really nice rich aroma, and with a lot of blends it was the same for me. You know, the first half of the bowl was quite good. The second half, the Burleys came through a little bit too much for me, for my liking, and but it was okay. I would not say it's a bad blend. It's certainly a good blend, just not my particular taste. But even then, I could still smoke it quite happily, so it wasn't terrible. Some dark flake, I assume Dunhill, and Balkan mixture. In my mind, I would agree that that doesn't really work in my mind, but you never know sometimes. You know, sometimes you got to mix it and try it and see if it works, and sometimes it only works a year or so later. This 40th and the Pure Virginia from McBaron at the time didn't really hit the note big time. I think I enjoyed it, but I don't think it hit the note as it is now. It's explosive now, it really is. Condor and San Bruno, I think, is a very common mix, which people, certainly in England, I think that was quite a standard mix. Yeah, Beowulf, that's absolutely right. When you're making a pipe, you're kind of experimenting all the time. Not just with the tenons and mortises, but just the whole time, just finding new processes, especially when you're new. You're finding new processes all the time. H.H. Bold Kentuckian M4 original, mellowed out the Bold Kentuckian was super good. That's cool. Kamikaze cake, very good, Chad. Is that just for the purposes of the joke, or did you actually do it, Chad? It sounds like that would be a quite a spunky Latakia blend. My favorite LCS pipe. Well, in terms of ones that I'm smoking, it's the Rhodesian is the one that I smoke the most. But in terms of the favorite one that I've made so far, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. And I think that my favorite one that I've made is not with me anymore. That's gone to a guy who's already bought 4 or 5 of my pipes out in Singapore. Let me see if I've got a picture of it. I'm pretty sure I will have a picture. It was this pipe here. I can't say necessarily if it was my favourite. It's certainly one of my favourite pipes because it was quite convoluted and complicated to make that shank. I say complicated, but it just needed time and dedication and slow concentration. You know, sometimes with a pipe, one false move and you've lost your original intention. You can often save it and make a decent pipe, but sometimes you just can't get back the original plan that you had. And that's happened with so many pipes. But the interesting thing is that many times the resultant pipe might be even better than what you originally planned. This is an example which I would never have in my imagination dreamt up this pipe intentionally, but it really came out an amazing original shape. This is a Dublin with some beautiful grain on it, a little bit of the plateau on the top there. And that rim, I only just decided to do it as I was turning it. Got a little bit of faceting there. And it just turned out a really interesting, unique shape. The only thing which I regret, but that's because it wasn't intentional, the shape, is that if I would have canted it more, it could have been a bit of a dancer. But I can't risk sort of taking off from the bottom because I'd be too close to the draft. And one of the things which I try to do with all my pipes is to make sure that there's a decent amount of briar beneath the draft so it doesn't get too hot or doesn't have a risk of burning out. So that was probably one of my favorite ones. In terms of the ones that I've got left available, this one is a revamp of a pipe that I did before. This one had a regular ebonite stem on it before, but the shape was ostensibly the same. This sort of edge wasn't as good as it is now. There was a little bit of a sort of a curve in the middle just because of the process that I used to sand it, but now it's absolutely continuous and smooth as it should be. I've stained it as well to bring out the bird's eye on the top, on the rim there, and I've also done a little bit of faceting here on all the corners. It's like a soft it's not sharp lines, it's a soft faceting. It brings out the grain really nicely. and I put a new emerald stem on it, which continues the flow of the shape there. And I've been close to firing this one. I know Jordan's a fan of this pipe, but it's this one keeps talking to me and calling my name. But if somebody wants to buy it, then for sure. I know, Jordan, I know. Jen, which one are you talking about? They're not all from Ian. I'm kind of I buy briar from a few different sources now. I haven't really bought any from Ian for a while now. I still have a few of his blocks left, and I'm kind of keeping them. But the truth of the matter is, the briar that I've been buying has been equal to those blocks, if not better. Some of them. Some of these more recent pipes were not Ian's blocks. This one, they're all 9mm, and whatever you see here is 9mm except for this one, my most recent one, which is the one and only non-9mm that I've made. I mean, I've made non-9mm in the past, but not to this standard. I don't know if you guys remember this pipe. I made this pipe a long time ago. This one is not 9mm, and this one is. I actually cut this on the lathe. It's actually got some really nice bird's eye. I could do with restaining this actually, and maybe make it available. I just it was one of the early pipes that I did, and I just haven't really made it available as such, but maybe I will one day. Yeah, Tim, I was actually thinking of speaking about it, but I on one of my videos, but I decided against it. Essentially, guys, if there's a UK Facebook group which I'm on, and there's a guy on there who decided to pick on me. And I've slowed down my posts on that group simply because it's just annoying. And basically, whenever I post a picture of a pipe that's available, he just puts negative remarks about it, and I've no doubt that it's just pure jealousy. The first time I actually put a pipe on that group and published a price, I think there was a huge negative reaction, because I dared have a price which was more expensive than some of the more established carvers here in the UK. So for instance, Blakemar, hi Chris, thanks for joining. Blakemar Briars, you can buy a perfectly good pipe, excellent pipe, for £30–40, no problem. Whereas I was charging on some of my pipes, my pipes range from, I would say, £90 to £150. Okay, so that's handmade pipes, made, sort of made by myself basically. Whereas and the Blakemar ones are also, don't get me wrong, but I think the difference is that he's got machinery that enables him to make a pipe very, very quickly, whereas I'm basically shaping it and carving it and making the pipe for what it is. And the vast majority of his pipes are either rusticated or a very dark stain, and you don't really see the grain as much, although he does have higher ranges where you do. But bottom line is, it doesn't make a difference. If I'm charging £1,000 for a pipe, it makes no difference at all. People who want to buy my pipes will buy them. People who don't won't. But why sort of diss somebody who's trying to develop and make a reputation and make a brand? There was no reason for it, and he was really becoming quite obnoxious, and basically insinuating that I was ripping people off. And he said whenever I put a picture up of a pipe, he's going to prevent me from ripping any more people off. That kind of thing. And if I was charging £500 for a pipe, then yes, I can understand that. Even then, it wouldn't be any of his business what I was charging for a pipe. But as I say, my pipes ranging from around £90 to £150, and I just thought it was. I tell you what it is. I find that with the English groups, no disrespect to the English Facebook groups, it's simply because they're not used to spending that kind of money. In the American market, the market is huge. People are prepared to pay for artisan pipes. I'm not saying I'm an artisan carver, but in America, the people will pay thousands of dollars for a pipe, and that's great. But here in the UK, I don't think the market can carry those kind of prices. And I think that they were perhaps defending the honour of people like Mike Billington of Blakemar and Ian Walker of Northern Briars, those kind of people. They were kind of defending their honour by dissing my work. That's really the bottom line. And I don't take it to heart. I gave as good as I got. I responded in kind. And even one of the people at the time said, on this particular Facebook group, it's best mates rates. In other words, because everybody's mates, you're supposed to charge accordingly. And I responded. I said, nobody would ever go to Ian Walker or Mike Billington and wouldn't dare to tell them what they should be charging for their pipes. So the same should apply to me. You don't like my price, don't buy my pipes. Absolutely, Tim. Everybody should try and get a bargain. I'm exactly the same myself. But if I can't afford a pipe, I'm not going to go and diss the maker. Or if I don't want to spend that kind of money on a pipe, The group is called UKTPC. It's a closed group, but you could probably get in. I don't see why not. Absolutely, Hector. Ian Walker, I think, and both Mike Billington and Ian Walker would probably be quite upset if they heard that was the case. Absolutely, Josh. I agree with that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing that giveaway that I'm doing at the moment, is because I do feel a lot of the time it's people helping other people along. Yeah, I think that's how it's written, Harold. Or UKTPC, PC, I think. I'm not sure. Ask Tim will be able to tell you. Hi Snake, how you doing? Yeah, it's really quite childish. I mean, the guy, I've actually blocked him now, so he doesn't see my posts. I don't see his. Hey Newton, how you doing? It got a little bit silly because I just Night Jordan, thanks very much. I just couldn't be bothered spending the time on it. And it doesn't bother me if somebody puts a negative post on my things, because it was actually this pipe. This was the second one that he posted on. I can't remember which one was the first one, and he was saying that some words like he wouldn't pay £30 for that pipe, a piece of junk, a hobby pipe, a hobby kit pipe, and that kind of thing. It's just childish stuff, but there was no point in continuing it. I tried to have a reasonable discussion with him, and he wasn't having any of it, so fine, no problem. I just blocked him, and that was it. The giveaway is live at the moment. It's not. I'm not doing the drawing for a couple of weeks yet. The 16th of November, and it's a really simple one to enter. You can either do it by commenting or doing a video. If you watch my video from, I think it was either Thursday or Friday, you will see the details. Well, Sandro, that's very generous of you to say so. I wouldn't call myself an expert, not by a long chalk. I mean, there are people out there who have vast knowledge. If you ask Hector, he'll tell you I don't even know what a burley tobacco is. or a Perique. I know what it tastes like, but the history of it, how it's made, all of that kind of stuff. He's often correcting me on my descriptions of certain tobaccos or pipe shapes, things like that. So I'm certainly no expert at all. I just know what I smoke, and I try to describe things in simple terms. I'm smoking, Newton, I'm smoking a blend I made a year and a half ago, which is McClelland's 40th anniversary and McBaron HH Pure Virginia. And this stuff is very aptly timed. It's fireworks. Speaking of fireworks, I actually took my family out earlier this evening to see some fireworks. We were underwhelmed, to say the least. I'm actually even thinking of taking another tin of 40th anniversary and just jarring it, just to see how that matures up. I'm kind of in two minds about that, either to leave them sealed or to take it out and jar it up. Yeah, Beowulf. They actually do have. They do have pretty good admins on that group. But if I remember correctly, even the admin commented, and I kind of put him on in his place at the time, politely. But I'm not shy of responding and defending my position in a reasonable, polite way. But I'll be robust when I need to be, without being offensive, of course. Somehow or other, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of people who end up criticizing end up just sort of descending into being offensive, which I haven't got time for that. Good evening, Damon. I haven't watched the gore yet, Newton. I saw that you posted the video. I will watch that. This is my first Radice pipe, and I've got to tell you, I highly recommend it. I don't know what briar they use, if it's the same as Castello or not. Mike at Briar Blues tells me that it's the same kind of stuff, and he said it's as close as you're going to get to a Castello with a more economic price tag. I didn't want to say that, Chad. I said it instinctively, but then drew back from that, because probably not fair to make that assumption. It may be true, but I just didn't want to make the assumption. Robert couldn't win a broken nose in a face-kicking competition. It is a gorgeous sandblast. When he, his insiders list that he does. As soon as I saw it, I jumped on it straight away, and I told him that I want it. And Mike is like one of these old-fashioned, gentleman sort of style purveyors of pipes. And as soon as even though I hadn't paid for it, he'd actually sent it to me before I'd even paid for it. And I paid for it before it had arrived, but as soon as I said I wanted it, it was in the post, and obviously there's a relationship there anyway. I'm not sure that he would do that with everybody. I'm sure he wouldn't, but we've exchanged stuff before, so I'm sure that's part of it. But he's a great guy to work with, I must say. If you're not on his insiders list, go to his website and just subscribe to the insiders list. A lot of the pipes are expensive. The vast majority of the pipes that he has are for real collectors, people who are prepared to spend upwards of between $300 and $2,000-$3,000. But he does get some real gems, he really does. And if you're a Castello man, then he has plenty of Castellos pretty much all the time. And I'm sure one day I'll still get to own a Castello. He had one a few months back, a 9mm, which he said that Castello had sent to a nearby pipe sort of workshop, and they had it converted to 9mm. But I've actually spoken to the BRTV mug is downstairs somewhere, probably in the dishwasher. What was I saying? Yeah, so he offered me that pipe, but it was too much money for me. But one day, whether I'll buy one and convert it myself or somehow get one somehow. Yeah, Harold, I mean, that's the age-old argument about pipes and values. I've often wondered, when people charge 10,000 euros for a pipe. If you have a look on the Danish Pipe Shop, there's one on there now for about 10,000 euros. And I would often wonder to myself, what makes a pipe of that value? And certainly the engineering that goes inside a pipe certainly can be quite detailed in terms of the shaping and sort of the funneling here and literally to the minutest of measurements, the connection of the tenon to the mortise, where it's literally almost the end of the tenon is kissing the end of the mortise, but with a slight, like a 0.5 millimeter gap, so that for room for expansion from the heat. That kind of thing, where every little minute detail is taken into account, and the diameter of the drill, where it meets the tenon, and then where it meets the rest of the stem, and then it goes in and then out again. All of that's done inside, and a lot of time is spent on minute sanding, literally minute sanding, and that time is money, Whether it's worth 10,000, that I think it comes into lifestyle. It's no more just a matter of buying a pipe to smoke. It's a lifestyle thing. Is any painting worth £50 million? No, intrinsically, certainly not. But it's art. And these pipes, the ones that go for that kind of money, really become, they go beyond being a smoking machine, and they become art. For me to say would I ever buy one, in my current standing in life, no. But were I to become a millionaire, maybe I would. Cheers, Beowulf. I look forward to seeing that. Am I going to get another Radice? Maybe. I've got a feeling that those Radice Pipe of the Years from Mike will probably be beyond my pricing, but we'll see. And he's only got 4 9mm, so they may go very quickly, and they may even be all spoken for. Well, that's a good point, Hector. I used to sort of comment, I remember there was a time when I saw a couple of new pipe makers coming into the scene from America, and their pipes, and some that I'd even bought from, where their pipes were around $100, $150, and within a space of 6 months, their price was up at $300-400. And I found that to be quite surprising, let's put it that way. But if people are going to pay for it, then, as you say, that's exactly where it is. I've said to myself that I'm going to do my very best to keep my prices down. I've certainly kept it roughly the same price, once I was happy with the standard of the pipes. And the pricing that I mentioned earlier is roughly where I've been at since I started really producing acceptable pipes, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to keep it that way for a long time. And I'm not even sure that I'm at the right price point, because I've got 8 pipes here sitting here which haven't sold, so who knows. Yeah, absolutely, Hector. I realise that's what you meant. Certainly, the amount of work that goes into it. If you start to equate time against money, when you've got a factory pipe, for instance, so people will say to me, "Why should I spend £100 on one of Simon's pipes when I can buy for £60 or £70 a perfectly made Savinelli, or for £100 I can buy, or £110 I can buy a Stanwell?" That's absolutely right. The difference is that a Stanwell or a Savinelli is made ostensibly by a machine, and they may still end up being a better pipe than one of mine. It's very possible. But handmade is handmade, and you're putting time into it, and the design is going to be virtually unique as well. The vast majority of pipes will never be identical if they're not made by a machine. So you're getting a bit of a unique piece of the carver. You're getting the frustrations, the sweat, and the ingenuity, inventiveness, and just the general eye, the design eye of the carver in that pipe. Now, if that has no value to you, then sure, buy a Savinelli. But what usually happens is that people tend to start to recognize the style of a carver, and they either like it or they don't. And if they like it, they'll often be very, very dedicated to that particular carver. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about the money, Hector, 100%. All of these are available. If they sell, they're available. If they don't sell, I might keep them, but they're all available. To be honest, I find that with most machine-made pipes, and I'm not casting aspersions on any particular brand, but most machine-made pipes, if they're not straight, chances are the drilling's going to be off. If it's and even straight pipes, they're not always straight on. Yeah, Josh, he was one of my first customers. He had one of my first pipes, which I considered to be an acceptable pipe, and the briar on that one was particularly a beautiful piece of briar. Josh, he says it's one of his sort of daily smokers, and he loves it, so I'm really happy about that. There's nothing which makes you happier to know that somebody's enjoying your pipe. Jin, these ones are all made by me. These are all my creations, if you like. All right, Suffolk, thanks for joining. The Volcano is still there, but it is available if somebody wants it. It is a unique piece. It's a lovely piece of briar as well. Nice grain, really nice grain. A beautiful bit of plateau on the bottom, which is really shined up really nicely, which is not always easy to do with plateau. A very, very nice piece of briar. It's kind of it's a piece, it's not one that you would take in the car with you necessarily, but it's a lovely piece of briar. It's a nice pipe. It's a beautiful pipe to sit around with and sit in your armchair with. Absolutely, Harold. It really depends what your style of smoking is all about. For some people, it's all about the smoking, it's all about the tobacco, so it really doesn't matter what it looks like. But for some people, it's the art of it as well. It's the collecting side of it. It's how the pipe looks. It's all part of it. For me, it's all of it. For me, it's about the way the pipe looks. It's the weight of the pipe, the balance of the pipe. And all of that does add to the experience. As Quaker says, if it's a bad smoking experience, it's a bad pipe. But for me, it's a whole load of things, including the tobacco. I would, if clenching was important to you, then you wouldn't want a pipe like that. If you're going to only smoke as a clencher, and I must be honest, I do clench quite a lot, especially when I'm in the car. But a lot of people don't clench, and there's plenty of people who prefer bigger pipes. And I've been reading the Pipe Collector magazine for quite a long time. Not quite a long time, quite a lot of the magazines, which I've recently got after subscribing to them. And there's a huge amount of serious big collectors in the US, and they must be spending heavy thousands of dollars on their pipes. And there's a guy there called Rich Esserman, and he basically collects big pipes, like Magnum sized pipes. And just reading his articles in the magazines, sort of magazine after magazine, it's kind of given me a little bit of a taste for some of the bigger pipes. But I've yet to invest in anything Magnum sized. I did put in a query at Ian Walker's, but I haven't actually pulled the trigger or made an order. But perhaps I'll just make myself one, maybe. Interesting. This blend that I'm smoking at the moment, the McClellan side of it seems to have taken a bit of a back step now, and I'm getting the Pure Virginia, the HH, coming through, which is interesting how some blends work. Because you'd think that you're burning it all at the same time, but hi, Bono. Yeah, absolutely. I can't sort of consciously say which pipes go better with which tobaccos. I just instinctively will smoke certain tobaccos with certain pipes, and that's really how it does develop over time. I'm probably still too new a smoker to be able to make those distinctions, but if you talk to some of the old timers, they will tell you that this pipe is great with this tobacco, but this tobacco really doesn't work very well in another pipe. Behave yourselves, that was just an abbreviation. You know what, whenever Hector gets on, it brings out the worst in me. I think it was something about Boner and pipes. Hi Wildcat, how you doing? Absolutely, Harold. It's horses for courses. We all enjoy the hobby in whichever way works best for us. Do I think the bowl shape, round versus tamper, can change the smoking of a pipe? I don't follow, Daniel, what your question is. Sorry. Oh right, do you mean a round bowl versus a tapered bowl? You mean like a Dublin? Is that what you're saying? So, for argument's sake, this shape versus that shape. Yep, is that what you're asking, Daniel? So essentially you're talking about a round bowl against a Dublin. Now previously I used to stay away from Dublins myself, because I used to find that because it tapered in, the amount of briar was much less here, and it could be quite thin, and therefore it would get really hot. And I personally, when I bought pipes, I stayed away from Dublins. But when I make the pipes, when I do the Dublins, I tend to use a narrower drill bit. So these are 18 mil as opposed to 20 or 21 mils sometimes. So there's still plenty of thickness there. One of the main things that I do in terms of the technical side of it, I'm not usually technical, but one of the main things that I do is to ensure as much as possible that there's plenty briar. In my earlier pipes, some of them were really thin, and they would be fine too if you look after them and you know how to smoke a pipe. But that was all learning experience for me. But I do try now as much as possible to ensure that they are thicker. But there are some exceptions. I know Chad's got one on the way at the moment which has got quite thin walls. They're not too thin. It's not as thin as some of the ones that I've done in the past. You guys will remember this pipe. This one was the stem that I'd made myself, and I wanted to keep it because I'd broken it on another pipe. So I made this pipe, and this one had exceptional grain on the pipe, but too many flaws. Ended up making a really nice sort of flat Canadian style shank, but look at the thinness of the walls there, and I've still not fired it up, and I don't know if I ever will. The drilling is pretty good on this one, but it's just really thin, and it's got that sort of crack on the front there, which is what really ended up making it so thin. I was trying to get past it, but although it doesn't go all the way through, it's going to be really close. The Savinelli 320 Beowulf, I've had one or possibly two of them, but certainly at least one. They're a great pipe. It's like an exaggerated Prince shape with a stumpy Prince shape. Really thick bowl, so that will always be good in terms of keeping your pipe cool. But I've always had an issue with the stem on the 320. The 320, if I can show you something similar, this isn't really very similar, but essentially the problem with the 320s is because it's so stubby, I find that the stems become fat very quickly. So the bite zone itself might be fine, but it gets broad, thicker very quickly, and I find that disturbs my lips or whatever. It just doesn't really work for me. But a lot of people absolutely adore those pipes. They are. I know Tim's had quite a few of them. I don't know if you've still got any left. You were selling them at one point, weren't you, Tim? Hi Rich, how you doing? All right, cool. It's a difficult one, Beowulf. If you're a clencher, you might want to consider maybe the 321. If you like the shape, you could try the 321. Stumpy, yeah. The 321 is a smaller version of the 320. The Rossi 8320, it sounds like it is the same. If it's the same shape, then I guess it is the Rossi version of it, which is like a second Savinelli. The 321 is a smaller version, I think, of the 320. I think the 320 they call the KS, which is it's their king size in the Savinelli ranges. So a lot of them are called KS if they're larger. Yeah, exactly, Hector. So if Beowulf, if you're a clencher, then you might not be happy with the 320. It might be too heavy for you. As I say, maybe the 321 will work better for you. The 673 is the Friday Savinelli. Is Matches 860's Friday Savinelli, which is it's kind of a Rhodesian. It's like a quarter bent Rhodesian. I'm trying to remember if it has a diamond shank. I don't remember, but it's got a. Trying to think I've got something similar. I'll get a picture up on the screen for you. Yeah, so maybe try the 321, Beowulf. Alright, so this is the where is this? This looks like a pipe nook. Yeah, it is. Let's see, I get a bigger picture. That's the 673, the Friday Savinelli, and this is actually the model that Matches uses, which is the Roma Lucite. But there's lots of different shapes. If I was to get one, I'd probably go for the Dolomite, or maybe a smooth one. That's a nice one. Matches 860. Hey, Smoky Dragon. Talking about trolls, I was actually on Matches. I started talking about it earlier on in his live. I don't get to see the lives on Friday night, so he had a midweek Halloween session live, and he had 2 or 3 trolls on there. And because Matches gets so many people on his lives, he had over 100 people. It's impossible to follow a conversation, and it's impossible for him to follow a conversation. So I just tuned out. It just wasn't possible to really enjoy it. Yes, he is rock star status in the piping world, no question. Alright, so let's think of another blend to smoke. Or possibly a cigar, actually. I'm not quite in the mood for a cigar, I don't think so. No, I'm not. I think I'm possibly a little bit more like... oh, maybe the Spice Girls, how about that? Overrated and ginger. Yeah, he actually posted that earlier on this evening. He posted that he did a YouTube post asking people to moderate on his behalf. Mark in Rhode Island, yeah, I do watch them back sometimes, not live. But even so, it's still, if you do have a specific question which he actually sees and responds to, if you've got a particular question which is, he's obviously very, very knowledgeable. Last week's Pipe Club, I brought it home, explained, and got some nice words from Completro. It's very good. Were you in the London Pipe Club, the Pipe Club of London? Matches output on BRTV. I think he's only got one video up, has he? Has he got something else on now? I think I might try a bit of Mississippi River. Haven't smoked that in a while. This is from 2016, so that should be good. Oh, Chicago Pipe Club, nice. So did you go to the pipe show? Do you go to the pipe shows each year? This one here, Daniel, Sunbear, I did a first impressions on, and it's on BRTV. Oh, I see, Harold, that you were being sarcastic. Okay, well, he's a busy man. I'm sure he'll put something else up soon. I think Matches is, as you say, is a bit rockstar status. He's been around for a long time on the YTPC, and his videos these days are a little bit generic, whereas they used to be. He had some great storylines. He used to tell some great stories on Fridays. I really miss the Friday videos which he used to do, and it would be nice if he brought that back. So this is the Sunbear. I did first impressions of this on my BRTV channel. I think it needs time. I should really jar it. I haven't had the chance to do it yet, but no, that's not true. I haven't had the chance. I just haven't done it. It's got an interesting tin note. It's got quite a... Can't quite put my finger on it actually, but it's just interesting. The flavour, if I remember correctly, was okay for the first half of the bowl. I found it completely bland in the second half, if I remember correctly. But check it out on BRTV. I must be honest, I've got quite a few of these small batches. People have been very kind and sent some of them to me as well. I've not yet been impressed with any of their small batch tobaccos yet. I haven't tried them all. I've tried this one and the San Sepolcro. The San Sepolcro for me was far too spicy, far too spicy for me. But that's just my palate, It's always that. That's always the case. It's always a description of how I experience it. For some people, it might be fantastic. I would imagine that for the American crowd, especially the American crowd who smoke cigars as well, because the American cigars, the New World cigars, tend to be really spicy and peppery. So it could be that he's catering for them. This one is not spicy as such, but I just found it. I just didn't get the flavors. I just didn't get the concept. I didn't understand what this blend was trying to be. That was just me. But it could be with time. The thing is that they've used aged tobaccos in this, so it should be good. But sometimes you could put a bunch of aged tobacco together and it doesn't work. The blend itself has to age. So it could be that this will be really nice further down the line. Who knows? That's the thing with tobacco. It's just it changes all the time. So in the same way as I've enjoyed this and I've found it to be completely a powerhouse in flavour, not necessarily in strength but in flavour, I wouldn't have known that a year and a half ago. So a lot of the time you just have to try stuff. Right at the beginning when I was first started buying blends, if I didn't like them, I just gave them away or traded them or whatever. And sometimes you just gotta, a lot of times I will still do that, but I'll keep some jarred up and just try it again later on and see what it's like, because tobacco changes all the time. Yeah, Snake. I would agree with you. You know, C&D. I've tried. You know, they've got a vast range of tobaccos, and I've only tried a handful, and none of them have really impressed me. None of them, with the exception perhaps of some of the Latakia blends. And I think I enjoyed Sixpence as well, which I think is a vapor, if I'm not mistaken. Is that Cornell and Deal, or is that the other American one? GLPs. It might be GLPs, that one. Absolutely, Daniel. There you go. Quite nice is one of the exceptions. That's what I was referring to, but I couldn't remember if it was GLPs or C&D. But Quite nice is a good blend. Somebody did ask before if I like twists. I haven't had a lot of experience with twists. I've tried a couple and didn't like them. But again, you know, it's something which perhaps I'll like when I come back to it. I bought some the Garth Hogarth rum twist, and I gave away a fair bit of it to Stephen Cobbett of the Shire, because I know he likes the twists. And I kept a little bit of it for myself, and I'll try it again in the future. That could well be Hector. Quite nice, people say, is comparable to make the comparison with Penzance. I personally don't see it, but a lot of people say it's like Penzance. Hector, I find the same. GLPs and C&D quite similar in that respect. $20.15 Mario Grande. When I first started buying pipes, Mario Grande was really cheap on eBay, and I bought a load of them. I haven't got any left. My last one I gave to Art, I think it was, because I know he likes big pipes. Daniel, Lakeland tobaccos are simply very, very heavily cased with a floral flavouring, which leaves a ghosting in your pipe. So besides for whether you like the flavour, which I don't, but even if you like it, you've got to really dedicate pipes to those Lakeland blends, because if you try to smoke anything else in it, it's going to have an effect on the flavour. Yeah, the Garth Hogarth twist's definitely more potent in nicotine. I know your dad smokes the Double X quite a bit, doesn't he, Tim? Well, Josh, I would encourage you to smoke it a little bit later in the day. Not because it's particularly nicotine heavy, but I think it will be more satisfying to you after a good meal. So unless you have a heavy breakfast, then that's fine. I wouldn't necessarily have it with your first coffee. You might enjoy it thoroughly, but I think you'll enjoy it more after a decent meal, and when you want to really just sit back and contemplate your girth after your big meal, and gently puff on a nice bowl of Penzance. Yeah, I was going to say that, Tim. Flavour-wise, it's not a big hit on flavour. It's not a big powerhouse. It's more about the tobacco, the nicotine. Alright, so let's put these little dregs back in. I've only tried one or two, and so far I haven't enjoyed them. The ropes. Josh. So that's the Mississippi River from 2016. It's like a kind of a cake, crumble cake. It's quite moist. When I first tried Mississippi River, it was all the rage. The Dagners were raving about it, and it was really quite sought after. And it's supposedly a small batch, like a lot of the Seattle Pipe Club. They officially call them small batch, but they're not really small batch anymore. They're pretty much available anytime. And I bought quite a few tins of it, and I bought quite a few tins of the Special Reserve as well. I didn't see a major difference. I think I detected somewhat of a richer flavour to it, but really not a big deal. But it was really plum pudding that I bought more of. I really enjoyed plum pudding, the Special Reserve. I bought a lot of that. I think I've only got one tin left. I sold a lot of it as well. I've got the original Mississippi River, the white tins, but it's not the original. It's already a second iteration. But when I first tried Mississippi River, I just didn't get it. I couldn't get any flavour. I really got hardly any flavour from it, and it was probably my palate just wasn't experienced enough. So it's been a while since I've smoked it. We'll try it again in a minute. Yeah, Peterson. I've tried a couple of them. I've tried the flake and the rolls, the navy rolls, and I would say it's pretty much the same product, just fresh. So it may not taste the same as something that you already have in the Dunhills, because that will be a few years old. But you should find them to be the same thing. Ralph, hi. In terms of Virginia's Biting, that was pretty much the only tobacco that I couldn't smoke when I first started. It always bit me, and it's only when I moved over to 9mm filtered pipes that I could smoke Virginias, and it's what I smoke most of the time now. But it's the sugars and the sweetness in there which can bite. I would think so, Tree. I would imagine that they're just really fresh. I really would be surprised if there was any difference at all to the ingredients. I just think it's just really fresh. I haven't had a King Edward probably in about 20 years, 30 years. My late grandfather used to smoke King Edwards. And when I think of cigars, it's him that I think of. My desk is just so crowded. I really have to work out another smoker's corner, because I don't have that corner of my desk anymore. So that there was my corner. You can see the Erinmore still over there, but there's a new screen there. That's the old screen. That's the new screen. And I've got a little mini Mac underneath there. And I've actually installed Windows on it because I don't like Mac generally. So I'm still considering whether I'm going to move most of my photography operation onto that machine, but I haven't yet decided, because that screen is calibrated with a professional calibration device, whereas this one has now got Windows 10 on it, and I don't think my calibrator is compatible, so I'd have to go out and buy a new one, which they're quite expensive. So at the moment, that's where we're at, on the side like that, as opposed to like that. So that's the new angle for tonight. I have never tried the old sign, you know. I remember when it was re-released, but I've never actually tried it. It looks too much like a Royal Yacht to me, but I don't know if it's the same kind of idea. Just before the Dunhill shop in St James's went out of stock of the Dunhills, I managed to get a sleeve of, it wasn't a full 5 can, I think it was 3 cans of Dunhill Flake. And I also managed to get some vintage Syrian, the H.H. McBaron vintage Syrian. I managed to get a sleeve of those. I think I've got 4 tins of that left. Hi Ben, how you doing? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Royal Yacht. It's just that it looked to me like the old sign was similar to that, but I can't say that with any kind of degree of knowledge because I've not tried the old sign, ye old sign. Cheers, Sandro. Ciao. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I sold a pipe. I sent a pipe off on Friday, and I believe the purchaser has received it today. And I sent it with a reducer. So I've got some of these in, and essentially it means you could buy a pipe I'm going to spin you guys around because I can't do this otherwise. So you can take the stinger out and you just pop that in there. It wedges in really nicely, and then it goes. And there you have a non-filtered pipe. And there it is. So if somebody says to me that they want the reducer, I send it with it. That's interesting that you say that, Hector, because when I tried Royal Yacht in the past, it was what's his name? The guy who does book reviews now. What's his name? Royal Yacht was his #1 tobacco. He doesn't do pipe stuff anymore. Something like, not Munchies, something. Can't remember his name now. Room note, yeah, but what was his previous name? I wouldn't necessarily call it a filter, it's a stinger. And a lot of the old pipes came with them. No, not Brad. Not Brad. Please. Yeah, Elizabethan is Brad's number one. So this basically, actually Ben will be probably more qualified than me to talk about these stingers, but they were, the idea of it was that, I believe the idea of it was that you didn't get any moisture, because that's, if you imagine that sitting in the middle of the tube, if you like, so the moisture would stay around it and just the smoke would go into the stinger and then through to the pipe. But I think most people just remove the stingers because they end up being clogged up with tar and nicotine and stuff. You can pick up the reducers anywhere, Wildcat. I'm not gonna. I would send you otherwise, but the postage to America just wouldn't justify it, or Canada, wherever it is you are. Buy another pipe, and then of course I'll send you a stinger. Har har har. What was his name beforehand? I can't think of his handle. It's doing my head in. Lunchy. There you go. Lunchy 83, was it? Something like that. Lunchy, he was known as. Don't know why Lunchy, but that's why I said Munchy before. I knew it was something like that. Anyway, I'm amusing myself. We're almost there. It was quite moist. Sometimes they do get wedged in because they get, especially if you've got an estate one, it's, you know, if you imagine that brown, tarry, sticky stuff, Lunchy 83, that's it. If you can imagine it, it becomes, it's heated time and time again, every time the pipe is smoked. You can imagine it becomes like a glue, and sometimes they're just wedged in there and impossible to get out on estate pipes. But on a new pipe it should be straightforward enough. I think all the Dunhill pipes used to come with a stinger. I don't know if they still do or not. Oh, a brand new pipe, really? Well, it depends. Some of them are designed, they've got the screw-in, like the old K Woodies and things like that. They would have screw-in stems, and the stingers, I think, would be designed to stay there. In fact, I think the thread of the screw would be on the stinger itself. Yeah, I actually was going to put a post on there asking him where he bought it. He didn't mention it. He didn't. I thought he would put on the video where he got it from and what it's called, and maybe a link would have been cool. You bought it from China, Tim? Well, I assume your 60s Dunny wasn't new, was it? A UK seller, cool. This is one of my pipes in Dublin. LCS 42, don't you know? Nice little plateau on the top there. Bit of a darker stain than usual. I did that to blend in the rustication a little bit. I overdid it on the rustication on this one. And I've started smoking Latakia blends in this pipe because I don't have any other LCS pipes dedicated to Latakia, so I thought I ought to. Goatman, hi, thank you for your VR, much appreciated. I think it was this one. I have smoked both in this pipe, but this pipe is far from broken in, so still early days. If you could put a link on or even a comment on the giveaway video, I'd appreciate it. It'd just make my life easier. But I will search so to try not to miss anybody. But if I do, I do. Obviously, it's better if people can leave a comment on the video saying either with a link or just saying that I've done a VR. That giveaway video was done really on the spur of the moment. I really wasn't joking when I said that I just felt inspired to do it at the time, having received and being the beneficiary of John's generosity once again. So it was done on the fly, and kind of the conditions and things like that were done on the fly. So I should have really said in the video, I think I've put it in the comments now, but I should have said in the video for people to do that. You're in my feed anyway, Tim, so I saw yours. Thanks very much. In the beginning, Bona, I did that as well. I was quite fussy about everything in the beginning, and a lot of my pipes were dedicated to specific blends, but not so anymore. It's really down to genre nowadays. It's Virginias, Vapors, Latakias, and aromatics. This Mississippi River, it did have quite legendary status a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. So a lot of people went out and bought it. I'm still not getting it really. But I know there were some batches which were really not that good, and people always talk about the original Mississippi River in sort of whispered tones, and they say how great it was, but I actually find it to be really quite bland. Maybe that's an unfair word. Maybe I find it very nuanced. How about that? For a more polite way to say bland. Very refined. Giveaway is absolutely not essential at all. No need to feel intimidated at all about it. Mississippi River, I think you'd call it a Balkan, but it's got Latakia in it. I think it's Virginia's, Latakia, Orientals. I don't remember if there's Cavendish in it or not. Really not enjoying this. The Latakia in it is not very forward. It's there, but it's not very pronounced. Time is precious, and I haven't got the time to waste it on a blend that I'm not enjoying. Let's see what else we can find. Oh yeah. This is the Danish Pipe Shop BS759, which Stephen sent me a long time ago, and I've been dipping into that quite a bit. Yeah, 100% Hector. I think that it's not so much about the content of the VR. A lot of the time it's really about the interaction. It's about sort of joining in with the presenter that's doing the giveaway, and of course it's about, for a lot of people, getting a chance at winning the prize, obviously. And you can tell, you know, sometimes people do VRs and there's really no engagement there. It's really just a very dry answer to the question, and that's fine too. It's an engagement of sorts, and you can tell where people just do not know who you are and don't know what your channel's about, but that doesn't matter. It's all part and parcel. Sorry, Daniel. Sorry, I don't spot every question. It's not intentional. The blue stem. This is a poker with a nice plateau top, and this one I basically designed with a little extension at the top there, so it's fairly straight on this side, but it flares out a little bit up there, which was intentional, and it was inspired by some pipes that I'd seen in the Pipe Collector magazine, where they've actually got some quite exaggerated extensions at the top, some of them with inlays, stuff like that, but I wasn't going to get into any of that, so I just wanted to do a little nod to that style of pipe, and it really came out very nice. So you'll see that the bowl, the rim is a little bit wider over there than it is over there. Now that's intentional. It's not been drilled not centrally. It is central. If I carry on sanding that round, it'll be perfectly round. But it was intentional in this case, and the drilling on it is perfect. It's a lovely pipe, really nice. It's lightweight considering its size. It's got a good sized bowl. It's a nice pipe, really nice, excellent grain, beautiful grain. Hi Lutrasaurus. In terms of drilling of the pipes, my drilling I do is 4mm, but the actual mortise has to be wider in order to accommodate the 9mm tenon. So on that particular pipe that you were talking about, so obviously this part has to be wider to accommodate the width of the tenon, but the drill itself, you can see there, that's 4mm. Some people do a little bit less, some people do 3.5mm, some people do 3mm. I do 4mm because it gives a nice open draw, but mostly because all of my pipes, bar one, are 9mm pipes, and the filter, to some people, it restricts the draw a little bit. I don't find that personally, but some people find that the filter restricts the draw a little bit. So for that reason, to counteract that, I went for 4mm draft to give a little bit more openness to the draw, to counteract whatever was being constricted by the filter. I personally don't find it as a problem, but I just built it into the way I do pipes, so in case people do have an issue with it, I've got a slightly wider draft drill. Well, you'll find with all my pipes that the draft hole should be dead on. Even the bet ones. Which one is this? This is the non-9mm. I'm just showing off now, but so there you go. Out of all of them, and they're all great pipes, but in terms of a daily smoking pipe, this is probably going to be the best one. It's the classic proportions, lightweight, and that will make a fantastic daily smoker. With a name like yours, that surprises me, Bona. Just following your lead, Hector, that's all. You're the ringmaster. The Generalissimo. Pipehead Oregon. Daniel, no, I haven't thought of making calabash or a system pipe. I personally don't like Peterson system pipes, so I'll generally make stuff which I personally like. Not just because I'll smoke it if I don't sell it, but just simply that's what I believe in, and I want my pipes to be an extension of myself. So the pipes that I make, I generally make how I like to see a pipe, and that's what results. I guess otherwise it just wouldn't turn out that way. Each pipe turns out the way your own sort of sentiments follow through as you're carving the pipe. So out of the ones that I've done here, which one has taken the most time to finish? This tobacco is good stuff. This BS 759. As soon as you draw on it, beautiful, sweet, musty, sweet, sour, musty flavors coming through. That's a great tobacco. Which one took the longest? Probably the Volcano. Just thinking about it, I was about to say this one because of the faceting and so on, but I think probably this one, because there was a lot of work which went into the plateau to make it look the way it looks, and the sanding of this, the shaping of this, took a long time to get the lines the way I wanted it. Yeah, so probably this pipe. I've made regular billiards, plenty. Well, I don't know if you'd call them classic billiard shapes, maybe Liverpool's, but that kind of thing. I don't know, Bono, it's a bit early days, I think. A while back, I was doing quite a lot of long, thin-shanked billiard type or Dublin type pipes, and I thought that was going to be a signature, but I haven't done those for quite a while now, so I don't know. Short answer, I don't know yet. I'm certainly specialising in 9mm, and that's something which I think I'm going to stick with. I probably will continue to do some non-filtered pipes, but I think that there's a niche market for 9mm. Nowhere near as big as non-filtered pipes, but there isn't really that many handmade pipe makers who do 9mm as a matter of course. They'll make it for you if you order it, but not as a matter of course. Yeah, Beowulf, absolutely. There's a lot of interesting shapes. And that's most of those that end up being interesting is due to the briar. If there was issues that I had to avoid in order to create those shapes, and sometimes the grain. There's a pipe which I sold also to that guy in Singapore, which I called the Cobra. That one's got some fantastic grain on it. The staining worked out really well. Oh, you were talking about Tree. Oh yeah, of course. Tree's got a huge collection of pipes. Very interesting. A lot of vintage stuff. Hey David, how you doing? What you thought of this one? It took a similar amount of time as the other pipes. This one, the only thing I spent a little bit more time on was the cant, to get the cant right so that it would sit. That was really the only thing that I spent a bit more time on, and the reason why I was able to do that was because the shank is so big. So the draft hole on this one is roughly around there, so it's still got a decent amount of a half an inch of briar beneath the bottom of the bowl, so it allowed me to do that really steep cant. In future, I think if I wanted to do canted pipes, sitting pipes, I'd have to sort of plan it from the beginning to make sure that the shank is high enough to allow that bevel. Thanks, Beowulf. I'm doing good, David. How are you doing? You said you're good. Currently smoking my one of my Dublins, and in it some BS 759 from the Danish Pipe Shop. So Christmas is going to be fun here in the UK, or the run up to it anyway. The country is going to be getting an early Christmas present. Good morning, Lionheart. No, it was a complete chance, Grobnob. Was not a tribute to the Clash. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Wildcat 77. I'll try to bear that in mind. I'll probably forget, so you might need to remind me. And when you watch my channel and you see me getting close to that number, do get in touch, and I'll try to accommodate as much as I can. What's that, Beowulf? What? Oh, you mean politics? No, I'm not retiring from photography, not yet anyway. The channel name, it used to be Bosco Piper UK. which you've probably all heard the story of where that name came from. But the London Calling was simply because of the live videos that I started doing. It kind of just made sense, when you heard the old BBC programme saying, London Calling, this is London, that kind of thing. And it just came to me, and that's what it was. No big reason other than that. Good evening over a pipe. I actually spent most of the evening, besides for when I went out with my kids to some fireworks, I spent most of the evening doing some photography processing from a wedding from quite a while back. I'm quite behind on my processing because of my pipe making. It was Bosco with a K. Bosco Piper UK. My eBay account is still in that name, Bosco Piper UK. Dankeschön, viele Mal. If any of you guys have got access to the Danish Pipe Shop and you like Latakia, I urge you to try this blend. BS759. If I had easy access to this, I'd buy a truckload of it. It's very, very good. Oh, nice. Chocolate sauce. Right up my alley. What are my thoughts on full bent pipes? My thoughts for bent pipes. I've really not had good experience with them. I would like to have good experience with them because I like the idea of a bent pipe, but I just find that they tend to be badly drilled, and I've had that experience myself when I've made bent pipes. They can be difficult to drill well without having to really chew up the insides of the pipe to get the draft hole in the right spot. Right, don't want to digress too much into politics, but I certainly wouldn't want Corbyn in. And to be honest, Boris, although a lot of people would consider me to be a typical conservative voter, a Boris lover, I like him as a person, from an entertainment point of view, but as a politician, as a country's leader, wouldn't be my first choice, no. And if we had a choice, I'd probably want another female Prime Minister, although the last one wasn't great. I just find that there's a certain, and I may be talking rubbish, because each person is different, but I find that there's a certain integrity with women politicians, and a lot of them have had to fight to get to where they are. So I'd actually quite like to see another female Prime Minister. The Elizabethan is available now on Peterson, David, so you'll probably get it soon in the US or in Canada, wherever you are. I won't be voting for Trump because I don't live in America. Beowulf, you're in Ireland, aren't you? Yeah, I think that's a fair point, Tim. The way the shenanigans that have been going on, it's turned off a lot of people from the politics. And that's a good question, Daniel. That is a good question. Peterson Dunhill tobacco is available in the States now. Not all of them, but they are available. We haven't got all of them yet either. They haven't released all of them. It's a good question, Daniel. Which one do I regret selling? Well, there'd have to be different answers for for pipes that I've made and pipes that I've just sold, which I've had. In other words, not my own pipes. So in terms of the pipes that I've made myself, that pipe that I showed earlier on, I wouldn't say I regret it, but if I had the opportunity to have that back unsmoked, I would probably like to have that one back. In terms of ones that are not my pipes, that's a much harder question because I don't remember all of the pipes, but I guess if I don't remember them, then I'm not missing them. But in terms of one that I miss, probably my Northern Briars Canadian, which is not 9mm. But that pipe was just phenomenal. I smoked Latakia blends in that pipe and just smoked like a champ. Absolutely adored that pipe. So much so that I got Ian to make me a 9mm one, but it's just not the same. As far as we know, they're the same blends, the Peterson and Dunhills. Tree says that, and he's smoked a lot of Nightcap. He says it's not the same, but it could be because they're very fresh, but they should be pretty much identical. I haven't made an Army bit pipe, no. And the main reason for that is that all of my pipes except one, they're all 9mm, and by definition that you can't make an Army mount pipe with a 9mm filter because the Army mount is tapered. That's right, Beowulf. A lot of I got rid of almost all of my pipes that were non-filtered. There's only literally a handful left. One of them being my Soren Refberg, the little Lovat, which I just can't bring myself to part with because I just love that pipe, even though I don't smoke it. Very funny, Rich. The Army mount, it's basically a tapered stem which just wedges into the whole of a. So this, where is it? This one here used to be an Army mount. I've converted it to 9mm, and the stem broke. It was actually done by somebody else, and it broke. But essentially, you have a hole drilled, and the stem, it wedges in because it's tapered. So the idea why it's called an Army mount is because in the wars, especially the First World War, I think, people used to have their pipes in their pockets, and the stems would snap off in the action. So what they used to do is they used to just cut the stem and taper it and wedge it back in, and that is how the Army mount was born. I just wish I had one here to show you what it is. But basically, you have nowadays the most common pipe. The way of connecting the stem to the pipe is a tenon, I think, sticking out into the mortise, which is the socket, and it's a standard thickness. But if you imagine that being tapered, you could really put it into any size hole, and that is the army mount. Certain saddle bits I prefer. I like the way this one, for instance, works really well for me. I find that they've got a more slender, refined look to them. So I generally do prefer a saddle bit stem if I've got a choice. I think they clench a little bit better as well because they're thin all the way. Yes, and army mounts you can detach while it's hot. Very good, Grobno. I used to have an Ashton army mount, which I sold. Another pipe which I did like. I smoked McClelland's Balkan Blue in that pipe, pretty much exclusively. Good night, Robert. Thanks for joining. But again, it wasn't filtered, so had to go. Over a pipe, I certainly hope so. I never got on with the P-dip, but I imagine they'll still keep it in as an option. But the whole concept of the P-dip to remove the smoke from the mouth, from the tongue, to prevent tongue bite, I think it's just relocated it to into your palate and given a hot spot in the palate, which I think some people also find burns them. But I personally never found that the issue of tongue bite was to do with the direction of the smoke. Once it's in your mouth, it's in your mouth. So for me, it was just about the sensitivity of my tongue. It didn't really make a difference. I tried P-dips, didn't like them in particular, and never bought one again. The screw-in stems, Daniel, those ones you could remove as well when they're hot if they're screw-in, then presumably they're on a metal mount. But the meerschaums you have to be very careful with, because I find a lot of the meerschaums, the glue that the mortise is in, it doesn't adhere to the meerschaum very well. So you just have to be careful. The meerschaums you open and close in the same direction because of that. Yeah, vapors are good. The best smokes for you. Everybody has their own best smoke, I guess. The P-lip stems you can clean. I refurbished a P-lip pipe a while back, and you just feed the pipe cleaner through it. It cleans the same way. It's counterintuitive because it sits on the top, so you kind of think that you have to bend the pipe cleaner, but it does because it's immediate, so it bends straight through, and it's not a problem. Good evening, Corey. I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Good night, Hector. Thanks for joining. Will I get into refurbishing pipes? I don't know. At the moment, not, no. If I was doing nothing else, just pipes, then maybe I would. But refurbishing pipes is very time consuming, and there's a limit how much you can charge to refurbish a pipe. So if you're doing it all the time, it's a nice sort of distraction from making a pipe. If you're sort of banging away at making pipes all day, you want to just to have a little bit of a reprieve and work on something else, then it's a good thing to do. But when you're doing other things in your life, it's just not the best return of your time to do refurbishments. Do you find you enjoy volcano tea? I don't know what that is. Acrylic stems, I generally prefer ebonite stems myself, but I've been smoking a lot of acrylic lately because that's what I've been using for my pipes. I just find them easier to work with, and they smell a lot nicer when you cut them. I just don't like the smell of ebonite when you cut it, or sand it, or buff it. Oh, vulcanite, fine. Typo. I prefer to smoke vulcanite, or ebonite rather, but I prefer to work with acrylic. Corey, where did I learn to make pipes? I think initially, as part of my enjoyment of the hobby of pipe smoking, watching lots of videos on YouTube, I came across lots of pipe making videos as well, and I enjoyed that as well. And I just watched more and more of them. And in a past life, I was always very handy around the house and used to enjoy working on stuff. So I got a couple of hobby blocks and went from there, which is I think where 99% of carvers nowadays start. And no apprentices, no apprenticeships. I haven't worked for anybody in pipe making at all. Over a pipe, GQ Tobaccos have just got a whole load of those Plato pipes. A couple of years ago, I actually kicking myself about this because a couple of years ago, Smoke King, one of the English websites, had a bunch of those pipes, and they priced them. They made a mistake with the pricing, and they had them on for about £100. And I bought one. And there was some issue with it, and I sent it back, and I regretted it because when I tried to buy another one, the price had gone up to like £150. But they are a genuine Peterson shape. Whether the ones you've seen are genuine or not, I wouldn't know. But if you're buying it from a reputable website, then it should be genuine, yes. The very first pipe I ever made is right here. This was from a hobby block, and this was done completely by hand. It was pre-drilled. My first ever pipe with a nice scar across it there. That was the natural part of the briar. Oh, I forgot, I've got other pipes which I haven't sold yet. There's this one, which I made recently. Just found that in my drawer. That one's ones available. This one I made a while back. It's kind of a Dublin, interesting shape, but the shank I wasn't happy with, so I've never offered this up for sale. But absolutely nothing wrong with it in terms of smoking. I might even try and fix it up a little bit, make it into a better shape maybe, because the bowl on it is lovely. Really happy with the way the bowl turned out. There's another one I made a while back, but I didn't offer this one up for sale. It's got a really bad flaw, so I've smoked it a couple of times myself, but that's about it really. I was trying to find the second pipe that I made, but I just remembered that I sent it to Smoking Grandpa Bones. I gave it away in a giveaway once during a live. But the first pipe that I made now recently, in number 1 of the 50 odd pipes that I've made, I did sell. And that went off to Canada, I think. I forget who it was. It might have been Wildcat or Pipehead. I don't remember. I haven't seen the Plato pipes for a while, so that when I first bought that one a couple of years ago, I hadn't seen them at all since till just this week, when GQ Tobacco's put them on the site again. Well, Daniel, you're welcome to buy them. Alright, gentlemen, I think that's going to be it for now. How long have we been on for? 2 hours and 25 minutes, wow. Very good, Beowulf. Alright, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining. Thanks, Beowulf, Daniel, Over a Pipe, Tree, Tim, Corey, Grobno, Wildcat, David, Josh, if you're still there, Lone Star Piper, sorry I didn't see you there, thank you for joining, if you're still on, Hector, who's gone now, Rich, Robert, who's gone, North Country Fisher, and everybody else. Daniel, if I didn't mention you, thank you, of course. Time flies when you're having fun, yeah. It's already 2:15 here in the morning, so it's time to go to bed. And I look forward to seeing you next week, if not before. And I will catch you on the next one. Maybe I'll get to do another couple of pipes this week. We'll see how it goes. I would like to sell some more of these, but I really need to find a way to have these sort of viewable all the time. So I don't know. I find eBay to be very time consuming, loading up stuff on eBay. Maybe an Etsy page, I don't know. We shall see. Thanks, Damon. Good night, everybody.